You know, you started out a menace. You're most definitely still a menace. I think that's what I like about you the most, Judar. Before we hop into this discussion on Judar, the Dark Fallen Magi, please do me a favor and drop your own thoughts on Judar in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, let's get into it. What's up, guys? I got the pencil here, and here we are to talk about Judar, the mighty Fallen Magi, aka he's one of my favorite characters. He's not one of my favorite villains, but he is one of my favorite characters. And the reason that is because Judar manages to stay Judar while developing as Judar throughout the entire narrative. And you may be wondering what I mean. So fundamentally, Judar is a pretty flat character. He has the motivations of chaos and destruction, and he kind of keeps those motivations throughout the entire series. However, why he has those motivations and how he uses those motivations to change himself and the world is what makes Judar super interesting to me. But let's quickly hit on this man's intro. When he showed up in the middle of the Balbat arc, and he just said, you know what, everybody dies, and they proceeded to almost kill everybody. That was metal. That was impressive. I like that a lot. It gave Judar a presence I'm afraid he doesn't get anywhere else in the series, and that's the main issue that I have with Judar as a villain in particular, because once Ugo just gives Judar the hands, like the absolute work, I'm like, I mean, yeah, he's still strong. He's still extremely strong, especially once he amps himself. But as a villain, he loses a lot of presence for me. But as a character, what I like about that beatdown is that it gave Judar perspective, because you can tell Judar was arrogant. Judar is arrogant. He believes he's the peak of all creation, and he's gonna live with that and rock with that as long as he can. So that beatdown made him realize that, whoa, hold on a second, buddy. There are things out there in the world stronger than me? Yikes, I need to fix that. And I love how he goes about fixing that. He trains, he focuses, but solely on himself, solely on magics that are rare, magics that are more dangerous, stuff that he knows that he needs to learn in order to become stronger, to counteract not just Jinn, that will apparently pop out of nowhere and just start murdering you, but also magicians, also regular warriors. Judar begins to understand that, wait, there are different things in this world that I need to be prepared for at all times so I don't get treated like that again. And that's what Judar does, and I respect that Judar understands that, yes, he is a Magi, he's a fallen Magi, he must use those abilities and traits that he has as one of the strongest beings in creation naturally to his advantage. It's a tactical side of Judar that doesn't get emphasized much, but you can see it a lot, because really, after the Balbat arc, Judar kind of just disappears. He comes back for a little bit to take over Kasim as his Jinn, and then realize how much more powerful Black Ruth can make him if there's a lot of it, and then he goes off for a while. He comes back, he declares war between Ko and Sindria, just to spark up more tensions, as that's what he enjoys doing, and then he goes off. He goes off for a while, he returns back to Balbat, talks with the princess, and then decides that, you know what, I gotta go train. He literally just disappears for a while and says, I must train. And he does that, and after everything, as he's training on his own, when Kohen calls everybody to come and take out the medium, Judar watches from a distance, and he's like, that's a lot of power right there. That's a lot of Black Ruth in particular. Wait, didn't Black Ruth make me stronger? Hold on a second, buddy. Then he snatches it all up and keeps it moving, because he realizes that that's more power for him, and no one else can really use it except for someone like him, a Magi who's only fallen to depravity. So he's in a good spot right now, and then he still disappears. He doesn't do much, and as noted in the middle of the second Balbat arc, what he does is that he's gone off to train purely with all this new power to see what he can do with it, how much information he can get from it. Because just like Aladdin used Solomon's wisdom on him in the past, he's trying to access his own version of it through this Black Ruth, through this connection to the previous god of the old world. So he's trying to do everything he can with that. And then you see, right at the end of the Almaturan arc, he pops up and he's like, yeah, y'all guys did a lot of work here, huh? Good job, good job. Pretty boring story though. But here, this is something interesting I got from that old boring story, and he drops down with the dark lightning. Like, it shows that his training, it bore fruits alright, also because of all the extra power he got from the Black Ruth. And not just the power, but the knowledge as well. Judar managed to get a massive amp over time, and through all of his training, through all of his development, through all of his understanding, it's what allowed him to finally take revenge against Arba in a sense and kill Gyoken. And honestly, overwhelm all Thalman for a bit. Really, while Aladdin does deal the killing blow to all Thalman, quite literally, he destroys them all, Judar also did major damage to the organization by letting Hakuryu take control of it, basically, by doing all that, by being the fuel for Hakuryu, by being the guide to Hakuryu. He allows himself to truly evolve and expand in a way that he never was before. Really, while he was the high priest of Ko and he was extremely powerful and extremely renowned even before any of the events of the main story, he still wasn't powerful enough. It's because of all these different things, his interactions with the world, all of these different pieces and factors of the world, they all force Judar to evolve. And that's one of my favorite things about a character, where regardless of what their previous beliefs were, regardless of whether or not their previous beliefs change even a little bit, they're literally being affected by the world around them, whether that be from a power standpoint, whether that be from a mental standpoint, whether that be from everything. Because really, that initial trigger that got Judar to even expand his horizons at all was admittedly his second fight with Aladdin, where Aladdin realized that, oh, I'm not beating Judar, so he literally just flashed him with Solomon's wisdom and opened Judar's eyes a bit. He was like, whoa, wow, I really was mistreated. And you can see how much Aladdin has affected him once he finally gets to Belial. Like, he's the one who summons Belial up so Hakuryu can get more powerful. However, Hakuryu and Judar are forced through what could have been, what could be, and he takes one look at his possible life, and Judar's like, wow, Aladdin was right. I can see all this. This was all a possibility. And rather than doing like the regular expected thing, being a good person afterwards and being like, you know what, I will try and work for this life, I'll try to change my ways, Judar has realized that he's too far gone. He's a fallen Magi, and he's going to stick to that role the best he can. And he just destroys this fake reality. He destroys this fake illusion. He says, I don't care what could have been. I am what is now, and I will destroy the now, and then we will destroy this wretched world. And that's the thing. Judar realizes that he's not a main character. And that's the weird thing. He knows he's not a main character, but he can guide the main characters. He takes one look at Hakuryu and completely understands that after the point of Gyoken being killed, after the point of Hakuryu becoming king, essentially becoming the emperor, he's like, oh yeah, Hakuryu, you've lost all noble motivations. You're literally just driven by revenge and hatred, and you have no control over yourself. I'm perfectly fine with that. Let's destroy it all, because that's all Judar cares about up to this point. He sort of had no goal before he met Aladdin. He had no real preconceived notion of what he was supposed to do other than follow his own will and desires. But now his own will and desires are something that he knows that he can't fully execute on his own. He needs a vessel, a king's vessel, such as Hakuryu, such as Nevra, to drive out and do his desires, because he knows this isn't his purpose in the world. He's a Magi, he's a supporter. He does basically what a Magi should do, except he is a guide. He wants to use these people to his own ends, and I really like that in characters, where they understand that one way or another, they aren't exactly supreme, but they can use some sort of their supremacy to their advantage. And I think the main point that is the acting catalyst that makes me like Judar so much is when Aladdin washes him. And I know a majority of that fight is Judar washing Aladdin by opening his third eye and just revealing that, oh yeah, you don't know nothing about Solomon's wisdom just yet, boy. And I love the fact that Aladdin resorts to booting Judar out of the atmosphere, basically, because he knows Judar will survive because he's a Magi and there's Ruth everywhere, so eventually Judar will still be living. However, he's perfectly fine with that as long as Judar's gone. So Judar gets booted all the way out of the atmosphere, but I suppose it's the gravitational pull of the planet that pulls him back down to the Dark Continent. It may have just been the fact that the Ruth loved him so much that they didn't want him to die. He is loved by both types of Ruth, both black and white, and it may have just not wanted to kill him, so they brought him back down to the Dark Continent. And then Judar is first to learn about himself there, because he needs to be protected by Alibaba, because Judar is fodder without all the Ruth feeding him endless Magoi and feeding his magical abilities. He's kind of worthless, and he goes through an understanding of, wow, I'm kind of fodder. Darn, this life sucks. And I love how Judar is forced to suffer, really. Like, he goes from the high pampered high priest of the Ko Empire taking care of Althalman to basically this nobody. He's stuck with a talking doll that happens to be a guy that his king vessel killed, and he's just forced to go through that. And you can see how much it affects him when he gets back and he changes. Like, sure, he does these little things with Nerva and has his little bit of fun, but then he's like, I got bored of it, I'm done. He's mellowed out, and he's still a menace. That's the thing. He comes back, he still insults and messes with everybody. He's still a bit confused. I don't know, this isn't like anything towards his character, but when he sees Aladdin, sees how big Aladdin's got and he hates it, I love that. I don't know, it's just fun little stuff like that. And I appreciate that Judar is in the final battle. Like, I complain that other characters aren't in the final battle with Sinbad, but I'm glad Judar is there, and I'm glad, honestly, that he's the first one that goes up. And I'm happy that he provides an answer to Sinbad that Sinbad just never expected. And it's something that I didn't really expect out of Judar, but Judar literally admits that yes, fate mistreated him. He got bullied into an idea that he never really wanted, but he doesn't care. It's literally all irrelevant to him. He literally just is happy with his own life. He's happy that he has comrades, he's happy that he has friends, he's happy that he has a role to play. He knows he's not the main character. He knows that there are other people who stew over different things and do whatever they want, but he doesn't care because he's happy with what he does. If he spent all that time dwelling on the past, if he spent all that time trying to be something he wasn't and something he could never be, then he wouldn't be able to enjoy himself in the now. And if he can't enjoy himself in the now, whether it be through destruction, whether it be through playing around, whether it be through messing around, what's the point of it all? So, he just lives a happy, content life, doing whatever he wants. And I think that's a beautiful journey for a character like Judar. For a character who had no real purpose to try and force a purpose upon himself in his fight with Aladdin, only to learn of what could have been, and only to hate himself for what happened to him. Then for him to realize through multiple struggles, whether it be against Aladdin and being forced away into the depths of the cosmos, or being with Alibaba and being forced to live alongside him and learn through him and survive in a different world, or whether it be through just going with Hakuryu and learning all the different complexities of life and how dangerous that harboring hatred of the past and revenge can be through another person. By doing all that, by Judar not being a main character, by him being an observer to other main characters, all these different people with their own different pasts and ideals, he learned things. He learned that, yeah, I have a role to play, and so does everyone else. So I will not just be angry at the past. I won't let that consume me. I'll consume the past, and I'll use it to whatever I want. I'll live my current life now so I can be happy with it. For a character like Judar, I wasn't expecting that kind of lesson or message to come out of him, but I'm glad it did, because upon retrospect, it makes perfect sense. You can't change the past. The past is something that can never be changed, and you can either learn from it or run from it. And what Judar decided to do, after running from it for so long, whether it be through his countless acts of destruction or his countless ways of just harming people and doing all these dark deeds, he learned that, yeah, sometimes I do rock with destruction, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I will just step over the past and kill what gets in my way. In fact, I'll do that all the time. However, I'll do it because it's me. It's what I want. It's what I care about. I don't care what everyone else cares about. Because I'm here. I have my role to play. I have my own path that I chose now. And I will do it by my own free will. And I don't care what anyone else thinks. I think it's a wonderful story. I don't know, that's the thing. It's a rather simple story, like it's spread out pretty well, like for Magi being around 369 chapters. Judar's narrative is spread out pretty, not necessarily thin, but due to him not being a main character, due to him not necessarily being a main villain after a point, it is a spread out journey, but once you think about it, you go through it again, you can see the very clear narrative that Otaka Sensei is trying to tell with him, and I like that. He's really just an interesting character to tell that narrative with as well, because of what he is. Like a fallen Magi who really had no control over his fate, finally getting the ability to take hands on his fate and doing what he can with it, running with what he wants. And I like that. It's a great story with a great character who has a fantastic design. Like, honestly, Judar's design threw me off a bit, but I realized he's actually very similar to a lot of the other Magi in design. Like, he's slim, tall, and naturally magic based. I don't know. You can tell what Otaka Sensei was going with. Like, literally, Otaka Sensei took Aladdin, aged him up, and gave him dark hair. And that's basically what you got with Judar. And I think that's fantastic. And one of my favorite parts about Judar's design is how naturally it accompanies the third eye. Because Judar actually, if you look at him, he's really dressed for almost an Almatoran age already. Like, as soon as his introduction, he kind of alludes to the Almatoran arc in their designs. Like, he has the top bearing the midriff with the baggy pants and everything and the massive staff. Like, he really is ready. So when the third eye finally opens on his head and you get to see it in its full glory, and you see the man who managed to control all the black root that was gathered over years and years and all the wisdom that was acquired, it's really cool to see. I don't know, I think his design comes together very, very well all around. I like every single part of his design. I like pretty much every single part of his character. I think Judar, he's fantastic. And honestly, I wish we could have gotten more of him. I'm not even gonna lie, like, I wish we could have gotten more of him after he realized more about himself and just him living his life. Like, if Otaka Sensei just randomly announced that, oh, I'm making a side manga with Judar and Hakuryu, and then just running around doing things, I'd be perfectly down for that, because I feel like these two will have wonderful adventures in the future. And I still need to talk about Hakuryu. I never did that. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Judar. What do you think about Judar? Do you think he's great? Do you think he's whack? Do you think he's somewhere in between? Tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.